Hey, I'm Andrew Lloyd Fry, the poet and classical composer, and this is the fourth part in my analysis, overview, thoughts on T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets. So in this video, we'll be looking at part 3, Dry Salvages. So I'd mentioned all of the section titles or places, and this is the only one that's not in England. This is in America, and Dry Salvages is a kind of like a group of rocks, kind of like an island type of thing, off the coast of Massachusetts. I'm not real sure, is that like just some rocks jutting out, or like more of a substantial space, but that's kind of the context. So part 3, there's a lot of water talk. So it talks about rivers and ocean quite a bit. And also this one, the first two parts feel very much more connected and more intertwined and more similar. And this one feels like a big change of scenery for me. So this one kind of stands out as being more different. I would say the other thing on this is I feel that like this section, much more than others, I'm sharing what those words, how I would interpret those words, and less, even more so less saying this is what he's saying. So it's more of like, this is my response, or this is what this makes me think, or this is what this is a symbol to me. And I'm not confident, if we could talk to the author and I say, hey, this is what it means to me, and I'm not confident he's like, yeah, you hit it right on. And I think that's less the point with poetry, this like right or wrong dichotomy, but more just being free to have that personal response. So even more than the other ones, this one I feel like is more of my personal response to the poetry. Okay, so I'll just start at the beginning. I do not know much about gods. Okay, right there. I didn't get far. So gods, it's easy. If you're reading it, you can see this. You can't see this on the video. Is not capitalized, the word gods. It's plural and it's not capitalized, which is a little bit lowercase gods, a little bit of an oxymoron right there. So it seems like it's not God if it's lowercase. Okay, but I think that the river is a strong brown god, sullen, untamed, intractable. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Okay, then only a problem confronting the builder of bridges. The problem once solved, the brown god is almost forgotten. And skipping down again, keeping his seasons and rages, destroyer, reminder of what men choose to forget, unhonored, unappropriated by worshippers of the machine. Okay, so this first section, I feel like there's this kind of dichotomy between man and nature. And I think nature, he's actually still talking about time. And but in this broader sense of like thousands of years of time, past and in future. And but kind of talking about that, like man versus time or man versus nature. And a river feels like a symbol of time as it's running. It's like always running and ticking like the clock. And in this, it's talking about the river makes this challenge that actually man overcomes pretty easily and pretty quickly. And then it overcomes it that it's almost forgotten. So it's like before the bridge, the river is respected, and the river is an obstacle that we have to like live our life around. But then with bridges, and I think you could even say like technology, intellect, we overcome that, and we can ignore it. So but then we go on to the ocean, and I'll get into this a little bit more. But if we think of the bridge as like the like smaller chunks of time, it's like we can ignore the implications of time for a while, but we can't ignore the ocean. So we'll get into that more. Okay, now one more line. His rhythm was present in the nursery bedroom. So I don't know on this if you've read The Prelude by Wordsworth, his autobiographical poem. One of the first lines in there is this very early memory of him being in a nursery and hearing a river, like the sound of water flowing. So I don't know if it's a reference to that. That's what that makes me think of. Okay, so then we transition. So the river flows into the ocean, and let's see. Okay, so talking about the ocean, what do I want to pick up here? Okay, I'll just start here. The river is within us. The sea is all about us. So there's that transition. We were talking about the river. Now we're talking about the ocean. The sea is the land's edge also, the granite into which it reaches, the beaches where it tosses its hints of earlier and other creation, the starfish, the horse crab, the whale, backbone. Going down a little bit, skipping some lines. It tosses up our losses, the torn seine, the shattered lobster pot, the broken oar, and the gear of foreign dead men. The sea has many voices, many gods, and many voices. Okay, so the sea is like tossing up these kind of like mysterious, odd creatures or whale bones. It's tossing up our losses. So the river feels easy to overcome and ignore. Like, let's say that's within 50 years of time. And the ocean is almost like this physical representation of eternity, but we'll get into, it's not eternity. It does have a limit. It's not unending, but it's like these very large swaths of time, and it's mysterious. We can't conquer it. And we'll go down and read this more, but the ocean is like aggressive and scary. Just the way the words he's using, let's see, like the menace and caress of wave that breaks on water, the distant rote in the granite teeth, and the wailing warning from the approaching headland. And all are sea voices, the heaving groaner, skipping down, and under the oppression of the silent fog, the tolling bell. Measuring time, not our time, rung by the unhurried groundswell, a time older than the time of chronometers. So that's the piece that feels like the ocean is the symbol of like very large blocks of time, like so much, like large blocks of times we can't even like really wrap our mind around thousands of years of time. But I don't think, at one point I thought the ocean was the symbol of eternity. I don't think he's saying that anymore. I think it's like large swaths of time. So the main thing there is the river, small chunks of time can be conquered. The ocean, very large chunks of time. It's aggressive, it's kind of scary. It can't be forgotten. It's like a force to be reckoned with. And again, it's kind of like nature versus man is kind of what's going on here. Okay, so what do I want to talk about next? All right, so I think that's all I wanted to say on section 1. Going on to section 2. Where is an end of it? The soundless wailing. So again, we have that contradictory statement, soundless wailing, that I talked about. The silent withering of autumn flowers, dripping their petals and remaining motionless. Dripping their petals and remaining motionless. You know, another one of those. And if we kind of tie this into other stuff, it's talked about like the partial horror and brokenness, and I feel like this section is going back to that theme of, so where will there be redemption? Where will we escape? Where the flower grows only to die a week later? Things like that. Where is there an end to the drifting wreckage? So back to some ocean stuff. The prayer of the bone on the beach, the unprayable prayer at the calamitous annunciation. There is no end but addition, the trailing consequence of further days and hours. So if we are in time, it's just time on time on time without redemption. So there's the very early on in the very beginning, if all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable, or something like that. And I think he's actually going back to that. So that's, I love, again, how much there's interconnection in this poem. Okay, so going on, this is still in section 2. There's the final edition, the falling pride or resentment at failing pride or resentment at failing powers, the unattached devotion which might pass for devotionless, the drifting boat with a slow leakage, the silent listening to the undeniable, clamor of the bell at the last annunciation. Okay, skipping down, we cannot think of a time that is oceanless, or of an ocean not littered with wastage, or of a future that is not liable, like the past, to have no destination. And then, skipping down again, there's no end of it, the voiceless wailing, no end to the withering of withered flowers, to the moment of pain that is painless and motionless, to the drift of the sea and the drifting wreckage. Okay, so again, if we are in time, we are inextricably linked with brokenness and pain and partial horror, and that will not go away. So I think what I draw from this is there's different things that you can believe that will give you that redemption. So very early on, it's like man's power, man's ingenuity, man's technology will actually solve the brokenness. And he's saying like it can do that a little bit over the river. It's no match for the ocean. And then it's like there could be this other belief of like actually nature in large swaths of time will heal itself. And it's like if we go talk about the nature thing, it's like a forest that we have brought in invasive species and it's thrown off the balance. And it's like, well, actually, if we step back long enough, we give it enough time, nature, large swaths of time, will fix the brokenness. But then taking that and applying it to like all of humanity. And I think what he's saying here is like, no, that's just, those two beliefs of redemption are false. And it's just, that doesn't work. That it'll just, as long as we're in this thing, we will just have brokenness that reproduces brokenness, which reproduces brokenness. And the solution is not in this plane. So you got to go look somewhere else. Okay, skipping down. So this reads some lines kind of talking about the thing I was just saying. The past, and this is still in section 2, the past has another pattern and ceases to be a mere sequence or even development. The latter a partial fallacy encouraged by superficial notions of evolution, which becomes in the popular mind a means of disowning the past. So it's like with enough time, with natural selection, the strong will survive. That will solve the problems. The weak will be like extinct, which would solve the problems. Okay, so now he's going down to what, there's a little shift here, we're still in section 2, into like what is the, catching a glimpse of like what is the thing of redemption. The moments of happiness, not the sense of well-being, fruition, fulfillment, security, or affection, or even a very good dinner, but the sudden illumination. So back to the pool. He looked in the pool, the sunlight shone in. For like a second, he saw a reflection behind him. And it's like this wispy moment of catching a glimpse of something beyond. We had the experience but missed the meaning. An approach to the meaning restores the experience in a different form beyond any meaning we can assign to happiness. We have said before that the past experience revived in the meaning is not the experience of one life only, but of many generations. So back to East Coker a little bit there. Not forgetting something that is probably quite ineffable. Okay. So the reality being often things that are like very briefly grasped or very briefly seen. Okay, so this, let's see, is this the thing? I skipped what I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, okay. So now we come to discover, now I think this is one of the key lines in everything in this section. I really feel like has been leading to this point. And he says, now we have come to discover. So it feels a little bit more like I've established this. If those two are true, therefore, now we have come to discover the moments of agony, and then we're in parentheses here, whether or not due to misunderstanding, having hoped for the wrong things, or dreaded for the wrong things is not in question, unparentheses, are likewise permanent. So if we get rid of those parentheses, the line reads, now we have come to discover that the moments of agony are likewise permanent. And I think that is like, I think most of the book has been leading to that statement. Moments of agony are likewise permanent. So we are establishing this idea, if we want to escape our moments of agony, we're going to need something bigger. And the ways we're trying to escape it, the beliefs that we think that will get us away from those things, he's saying are not effective. So then it goes down, for our own past is covered by the currents of action. So we're talking about more water, but the torment of others remains an experience, unqualified, unwarned by subsequent attrition. This is another highlight line. People change and smile, but the agony abides. Time the destroyer is time the preserver. Another highlight line there. So this idea of time heals, he's saying no, it's there. It might not feel less sharp, but it's there. And it's existing in this moment. You're not getting away from it, is what he's saying here. Okay, so then he goes down, the bitter apple and the bite of the apple and the ragged rocks and the restless waters. So back to Dry Salvages, I think these moments of pain and agony is like rocks in the ocean. And they have this very real reality. Waves wash over it. Fog conceals it. So we can feel like it's gone because it's concealed. On a Holican day, it is merely a monument. In navigatable waters, it is always a sea mark to lay a course by, but in the somber season or in the sudden fury is what it always was. So again, all this last section, the torment, the pain will not go away in the present or the future, and I believe he's saying it's with you. And this kind of gets into the next section, but I think a lot of what his point here is the past and the present and the future. The way we like separate those, I think there's a difference. I don't think he's saying there's not a difference, but I think he's saying we separate those and feel like those are more different than they actually are. And it's like, oh, that's in the past. I'm okay. I've moved on. And I think he's saying it's like, this is a little bit more like a bowl of soup. And if you put stuff in, it's all in there. So like to divide up this soup into 3 sections is just not reality. Okay, So that's section 2. On to section 3. Now section 3, I have a little less to talk about, but it's talking about the future. I sometimes wonder if what Krishna meant, among other things, or one way of putting the same thing, that the future is a faded song, a royal rose, or a lavender spray. A wistful regret for those who are not yet here to regret, pressed between yellow leaves of a book that has never been opened. So he's describing the future like the past. A faded song does not sound like the future. And I think the more natural explanation of the future is like energy waiting to be released, or like a spring waiting, a sprung spring. Yeah, is that how you say that? But he's talking about the future like it's the past. Okay, next line. And the way up is the way down. So that is the quote at the very beginning of the book in Greek. The way up and down are the same, or the way up and the way down. So interestingly, that's at the beginning. It's in Greek, which is less helpful. I probably would recommend that he had done that in English. But here it is, halfway in the middle of the book. Okay, so then I'm not going to read much of the next section. It's kind of this scene of travelers on a train, which has already been talked about earlier in the book. And there's like voyagers, this word of voyage. And the main thing that I wanted to point out here in this section is skipping down. This is like, I don't know, line 150 or something. He says, "Fare forward, you who think you are voyaging." So it's a little bit of like a deception that you're like leaving the past and going into the future. Okay, section 4 is more of a prayer, and it seems to be addressed to Mary, the mother of Jesus. So it's called like addressed Queen of Heaven. And it's about like pray for people who are in ships and fishermen and stuff like that. I have less to say on this section, so I'm just going to skip down to section 5. Okay, so just start at the beginning of section 5. To communicate with Mars, converse with spirits, to report the behavior of the sea monster, to describe the horoscope. I don't know what that next word is. I'm going to skip it. Observe disease and signatures, evoke biography from the wrinkles of the palm, and tragedy from fingers, release omens by sortilege or tea leaves, riddle the inevitable with playing cards, fiddle with pentagrams, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit more of this, but all of this is like using these like weird things to try to predict the future or understand the past. So it's like going to somebody who like reads tarot cards, or taking drugs, or reading palms, and it's like, how much energy are we trying to solve the mystery of the past and the future? And it's just like, here is like he's kind of just like making this huge list of like 50 ways we're trying to unravel the mystery of the past and the future. So going on, the reoccurrent image into pre-conscious terrors, so that feels kind of like Freud kind of thing, like interpreting dreams. To explore the womb or tomb or dreams. All these are usual pastimes and drugs. The features of the press, like that, and always will be, some of them especially when there's distress of nations and perplexity. Men's curiosity searches past and future and clings to that dimension. Okay, so this is kind of building here, and it's like the past and the future will not solve the problems, will not be redemption, but man is spending a bunch of energy trying to solve the mysteries, the riddles, understand ourselves. What happened to me as a child? What did my parents do? What do my dreams mean? Can I roll a dice and that predict my future? All of this energy into that. And if we follow this point, this like logical argument, he's saying that's not where redemption's found. So that's not the path. Now, here we go. Another big, like, let's highlight this line. This is right at line 20. But to apprehend the point of intersection of the timeless with time is the occupation of the saint. So the way forward is transcendence, to connect with something beyond time, and I believe that's spiritual. So the only redemption is to escape time through spiritual means to the eternal. No occupation either, but something given and taken in a lifetime's death and love. That's a good line. I won't go into that, but that's a lifetime's death and love. That's good. Ardor and selflessness and self-surrender. For most of us, there's only the unattained moment, the moment in and out of time, the distraction, there's the word distraction again, the distraction fit, lost in a shaft of sunlight. So again, back to the pool, and he's saying this reality is often a glimpse and a wisp and a thought that barely even rises to the conscious level. Okay, so skipping ahead, these are only hints and guesses, hints followed by guesses, and the rest is prayer, observance, discipline, thought, and action. The hint half guessed, the gift half understood is incarnation. So Jesus coming into the world and becoming a man is described as incarnation. Okay, here's another important line. Here the impossible union of spheres of existence is actual. So this whole time he's been talking about these things that go together that don't go together. It's just like, I don't know, is it like 150 times he said that? And here he says the impossible union of spheres. So he's saying these things that don't go together. Impossible union of spheres of existence is actual. So I think back to the moments of, let's see, what is it? The intersection of timeless with time, I think is those, it's like that's impossible, but it's happening. It's true. It's the way. Here the past and future are conquered and reconciled. So in time, it's like you don't have a chance, is what I think he's saying. And this, only this way, is the past and the future are conquered and reconciled, or you could say redeemed. It's the only way they're redeemed. Where action and otherwise movement of that which is only moved and has in it no source of movement. Okay, skipping ahead. And the right action is freedom from past and future also. For most of us, this is the aim, never here to be realized, who are only undefeated because we have gone on trying. We, content to the last, if our temporal reversions nourish, not too far from the yew tree. So the yew tree is a symbol of life and death. They live a really long time, they're evergreen, but they have poisonous berries. Not too far from the yew tree, so we're aware of our mortality. Let me go back and read that in context again. We are content at the last, if our temporal revisions nourish, not too far from the yew tree, the life of significant soil. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching.